Filing General Assembly. Openfiling is an association, a legal association registered in Spain.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Of Eurofiling, but with legal entity. The original Untitled Assembly was held in London in the European Banking Authority premises by the team of Eurofiling. And the first regular assembly was held in Rome the past year in the Bank of Italy. And this is the second general assembly in the Bank of Spain. So it's not a typical, say, freaky association of technicians. Okay, so the topic for today is basically the report of the president. Well, it's here. So the points for the agenda are the report of the president, question and answer, approve the management performance of the board, and a panel about open source initiatives for XBRL. That is basically the relevant point. The report for the president is quite easy. Okay, so what we are doing during this time? Basically, our idea on Openfiling is to create an umbrella in order to make visible open source project. The most relevant project in Openfiling is the RL project that Herr Fischer will explain later on. Other relevant project is the XGIN. XGIN is an open source tool developed for work with initial versions of the data point model. And Renata Fiedura from Poland is now in this moment the volunteer in charge of this open source tool. And also the last one is the, all this software, and for instance this will be presented tomorrow in the technical panel, also in this XBRL week in Madrid. And the other solution is Reflex. What is Reflex? It's a really easy converter from Excel to XBRL. This is not a product, in fact, this is simply a demo in order to help IT experts to learn how to generate XBRL instance documents. Basically, our activity has been concentrated in this point, and also to make popular other open source initiatives. For instance, the open source contest organized by the XBRL US jurisdiction. And basically there are not more activities as us. Basically, our work is to put the open source initiatives in the agenda, obviously not to compete with Fujitsu or with other companies, because they are not commercial products, but is to close the gap between the general public until you have a signed XBRL project. How to start to move with XBRL, how to help in the academy to learn about XBRL, how to train IT experts, that this is something below the radar of the commercial solutions. And then this gap is to be covered, among others, by this initiative. Maybe Yosaki may add something about this point.
Yes. Currently, I am working with the entity data, so Japanese IT company. And entity data doesn't have any its own XPR engine or tools. So in that sense, we are in the neutral position to use any type of engine or tool. So actually we are using, but also we are also testing Arere, so efficient effort. And when we are talking to the members, especially in Asia region, okay, because I am now organizing the Asia XPR Asia Roundtable, many users, not users, potential users in Asia eagerly seeking for the free access to the tools, and they are eagerly looking for the open source. Okay. And because when they want to start the very basic step of their implementation, they need to have POC, okay? But at the first stage of proof of concept test, it is not easy for them to raise the fund to buy tools or hire the specialist for testing. So they need this kind of free tool or open source, and the availability of these open source tools will, I believe, definitely enhance the XBRL implementation, especially in developing countries. Okay. So that is the recent situation in Asia, and I am very confident of the possibility of open filing activity. That is my report.
Okay, so this is basically the report of the President and the Deputy President. And according to the agenda for today, it's a time for questions and answers, not only here locally, but also for the people that is connected in this webinar. So the floor is open for comments, questions to the manner before the panel. This is the formal assembly of XBRL of Openfiling. Any question? Any? Okay. Then, according to the bylaws, the board, basically Yosaki and me, asked for the approval of the performance or the objections, or to be filed as you prefer. Then I imagine that this is an approval. And this basically closed the formal part of the Openfiling General Assembly, and then we may move to something more real. What is more real is a panel about open source initiatives for XBRL. So I will introduce to Herr Fischer, that is the developer of Arel, Renata Fiedura, that is the developer of SGIN for data point model, and also the colleagues from Spain with the open source center, governmental center for Spain, and Ignacio Santos and a colleague from the University Charles III that have prepared a number of developments that will be presented also tomorrow here. But now this is a panel about the open source initiatives for XBRL. And my suggestion is that Herr Fischer may start to comment what is the view of open source and so on.
Well, for Arel, this is like the second and a half, two years it's been around. It's been kind of exciting. The basic parts of doing things like IFRS and SEC validation have been around for a pretty long time now, and in what I would call parallel production use by filers for maybe more than a year. So that's pretty stable technology. The formula engine has been around for about a year, and some people are now pushing the boundaries of performance and beginning to help tune. Those things have to be optimized. The table link base, probably about a year or two, it's being pushed as the table link base gets a lot more capability through the standardization process with XII. Some of the things that have evolved and changed is integration. We've had people experiment with various different ways of integrating RHEL with their own projects, things that have not worked. There was a great interest in the AMQP was in an Apache message queue protocol that was tried and abandoned. Web services is seeming to work quite well. There's some announced products by big companies that there's an Oracle product that actually went into production and was announced, I think, 2 weeks ago, and it's using a command line interface to RHEL at this point, but they intended to switch to a web service type interface. There's the GUI for viewing things. There's the option to do deep integration with API, although that's not been attempted yet. One of the newer developments has been to formalize a way of doing plugins so that people can add capability without having to touch the core part of the code. So they can take new downloads and their plugin continues to work and they can distribute and maintain that independently. But I would say the rewarding part is now it's in this process of there's a formal tracking issue and bug tracking system and managing what people are doing in production or limited production of the product. There's a link to it on the website, but that's rhel.atlassian.net. There's also a formal documentation system. I think it's rhel. It's a horrible sounding U.S. acronym. Instead of RTFM, this is rtfd.org. So it's a rhel.rtfd.org is the generated documentation. So it moves on. You guys can submit what you need for features through the Atlassian issue tracker. And people can fight over what's the most important priority things to do next.
Okay, Renata.
I'd like to say something about XDEN. And I represent company which developed last extensions to this tool because we are only one of the longest list of contributors of this tool. The tools at the beginning was developed by people from Spain. I don't remember the names. And after that, it was developed, extended by Derek and his company. And the latest extension was put by my colleagues. Because I'm not a developer, I cooperate with developers from my company. And I'm rather responsible for defining requirements. So then it is a tool which was developed as Excel add-ins and allows to generate explorer taxonomy on the basis of the PM model written in Excel. In Excel, all the information required to generation of taxonomy are written. And the previous version, before our implementation of our extension, allowed to define a statement compliant with rendering specification, compliant with Euro 2010, I suppose. And there were no possibility to define the data cubes, and we have done it, and now the tool allows to define also hypercubes. You can see the demo of this system tomorrow. And now, as I know, this tool is used by project team which works on fingerprint correct taxonomy. But what was the future of this tool, I don't know, because as you hear today, maybe this tool would be replaced by other which would be more useful. But according to my knowledge, is still used for preparing the first version of thin correct taxonomy.
I may confirm that because there are other tools in preparation, but it's in preparation, not in production. It's slightly different.
Now it is something which works.
The only that works today is the tool prepared by the Renata Stick. Other maybe in some months and possible and so on, very likely, but this is an expectation, not yet a reality. So let me introduce now Manuel Velardo. Manuel Velardo is basically the coordinator of open source initiatives in CENATIC, that is the Spanish Center for Open Source. Manuel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ignacio. Hello everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, we are the CENATIC is a public company. It's not exactly a company. It's kind of a foundation. It is part of the Ministry of Industry in Spain. Well, maybe you know there's a big push in open source initiatives. We are absolutely not experts in XBRL. In my past, in my dark past, I was working in a bank, so I'm used to XBRL taxonomies and projects. I also belong to the XBRL Spain association. So we get the main objective to promote the use of open source. And recently, the Minister of Spain, the Industry Minister of Spain, released a couple of programs, a couple of APIs, in order to work with the very specific and local taxonomies, the taxonomy for the local entities and also for the companies. So they have the problem that they built the program, and suddenly the financial situation and the budget suddenly cut. And so decided to, well, what if we push this software as open source, talk to the CENATIC people and try to set up a kind of community around a couple of projects in order to search for sustainability and so on. So we have launched a project. It's in XBRL. Maybe, Javi, if you can point to the browser, to the page of our community, where you can, xbrl.cenatic.es, where you can find, well, these are our Forge. Forge is the place where you can develop open source software. So we have a blog, we have the wiki, we have all this, the documentation, everything belonging to these two programs. The programs are fine for working with these two taxonomies, but in the midterm, in the project, we are thinking in the joining of these programs and taking taxonomy aware. Sorry, can you say taxonomy?
Not to be taxonomy dependent.
Exactly. Sorry. So we're trying to find all these kind of efforts. Also with the Atos origin is always in place, trying to solve this issue. So if these programs are taxonomy independent, so they will be used by any kind of taxonomy and Europe or whatever. So we hope this project will launch and the XBRL more in Spain and try to train all the SMEs, local SMEs sector, to work with XBRL technologies in order to evolve and promote this kind of solutions.
Okay, thank you. Only to comment that the original version of this open source is a project of the Spanish government to help the Spanish small software companies providing accountancy packages. There are some companies, maybe with 5 employees or very small, that must to create or generate XBRL instance documents. And that companies are below the radar of typical solutions like maybe Matrix or Fujitsu or so on, because are not oriented to these very small companies. So the Spanish government subsidized open source that was developed by Atos, if I don't remember mal, the first one.
Not only us, there were several people who were involved. We built the one that was for the taxonomy for the Spanish gap.
The Spanish gap.
but afterwards that was taken by another team, and was extended, the API, I mean, to support the public sector taxonomies. So there were several teams that were moving, and all that was done within the context you were describing.
Yeah. Now the advantage is that thanks to these efforts and thanks to the collaboration with companies like Atos and other companies, this was provided to for the very small Spanish companies with documentation in Spanish and support and so on. And then they were able to implement this kind of driver to generate XBRL instance document and to populate the Spanish business register and the ministry for the balances, the mandatory balance sheet in Spain. Also the 8,000 municipalities in Spain to the Ministry of Treasury, and was a extremely successful experience, but obviously needs to be sustainable. And Manuel Velardo is in charge of the sustainability, and Jorge the sustainability.
He's the community manager.
Okay. Maybe also to...
No, just one minor comment is that it's although it was thought and built to be open source, now that it's being supported by the taken within the semantic environment, they have been reviewing that it keeps up to everything that is crucial to be successful in open source in terms of the legal situation for every single line of code. And then it's trying to fly on its own rather than supported by somebody. That's why it's being included in a Forge, and there's a community manager supporting it, and there are actions to make it be really used by other people.
Okay, thank you. And now is the tour of Ignacio Santos and his colleague Elena Castro from the Universidad Charles de Fez about the developments in the academy related how to link XBRL and the traditional approach, formal approach for relational databases. Ignacio, please.
Okay. Hello, everybody. The idea we wanted to present why we want to research in SBRL. Elena, I'm sorry because Elena Castro has an important access in tooth. For that, she is not here. A little summary, a little introduction, why research project, proof of concept, and conclusion and future work. Is why the university and we want to research in this topic, because in the last 10 years has been a great development of XML application and data warehouse technologies. It's very clear the economic data in the same period, in parallel, have also evolved. Increasingly, company and financial institutions need more information. In addition, this information must be reliable and on time. It's very clear in this moment with the crisis. Nowadays, the use of extensible business reporting language, SBRL, based on XML, continue to rise significantly, and this language is mainly used in accounting reports. SBRL is becoming a global de facto standard, and moreover, SBRL reports are created from various sources, and the important question is validate in the origin, so that this is syntactically correct. But SBRL represents business information, and for that, is multidimensional, and therefore the logical destination is a data warehouse. Our research project. In our first aim, we wanted to automate the mapping between SBRL and the multidimensional data model. We defined the definition and the structure and semantic rules in the multidimensional model. We write 2 papers in 2 conferences in WEBIST 2011 in May in the Netherlands, and IADIS 2011 in December in Shanghai and in China. But almost we want to provide more clarity. Sorry, for me this this complex language. Maybe for you no complex. For me yes. Okay. And to improve certain interoperability. Now we are working in the mapping formulas SBRL and the multidimensional data models. We are defining the rules and their definitions, and with one aim: the validation of SBRL formulas in the multidimensional data model. Tomorrow we present a proof of concept in the validation of document instance in a database. The proof of concept. Last September, we presented in the first Openfiling General Assembly in September 5th, 2011, hosted Banca d'Italia, Rome, Italy, our proof of concept of the automatic mapping between SBRL in a relational database. Is in you can download it in the page on Openfiling. Now we want to validate this instance document in a database, through XML, no in a database. Tomorrow present the automated generation of process of validation through stored procedures in a way automatic. But in a feature is we validate in stored procedures, but why not in Java? Why not in every language, .NET, etc. and so on. The conclusion: we want to clarify the SBRL data model, and with an aim, the automation and the interoperability. But with very important is the definition and the semantic rules in the conceptual model. Is that the multidimensional data model? And I'm sorry, my aim is a doctoral thesis. I'm sorry. Question, doubts, issues? No. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, doctoral candidate Santos. Now the point here is also to cover other areas, the academy and XBRL, because they are a group of academics related with XBRL. Herfi Cerami has been the past year in Macerata, Italy. I has been in Malatya, Turkey, in an academic approach. But these academics are more related with economy than with IT. In IT, I think we lack of proper research in the academy. Why? I think that the lack of open source is a relevant factor, because in I am a computer engineer, and obviously in the academy they need open source to investigate how the things really works. So a proprietary software, when you can see the source code, it's not relevant at academic effort. You need to know exactly what is inside. And in XBRL there are very few implementations. One is RL, other are the implementations prepared in Openfiling, and maybe others also in XBRL US that may be useful for students to learn how XBRL is actually running from inside. So this is a contribution of also the University Charles III of Madrid in this kind of offices. More comments, panel topics. Anything else?
Something that perhaps Manuel Velardo can explain better than myself, that 3 or 4 years ago we reviewed everything we could to find open source tools for the XBRL world. At that point of time, we found at least a piece for each part of the value chain. Over time, some have disappeared. For example, I remember we were able to identify XBRL processors open source, and then those were disappeared from the world. So it's not so easy to make things in open source world and make them happen. The processor side is really weak.
Yeah.
Absolutely, this is the main problem with the open source. There was some figures about some numbers with if you can find 10 projects or maybe 100 projects in open source, just 10 of them will survive, and maybe just 5 or 6 will last, or maybe get bigger than the ones on the origins. I think Ignacio said before that trying to gain developers, and in order to sustain this software over time is the main key. I think today on the open source projects that are not really built on a community necessity. I mean, just this XBRL stuff is very close to the business. So the community, the freakies and these programmers are really not in the business side. So they don't have a business need that they will adopt an XBRL project in order to support it and so on. So the whole community is not really aware of this kind of software, of this kind of project. Sorry, we are trying with this a couple of APIs on whichever project we have to get closer, to close the gap. How? Trying to talk always when we talk about XBRL, we talk about transparency. We talk about something that the main developers around the world knows. They don't really know about taxonomies, but they know that with XBRL, companies and local authorities and whatever gain in transparency. So maybe this is the main key to try to attack this kind of communities that are not really in the business side. Also, we are investing a lot in training. Sorry, we are now within the project. We are going to build a couple of courses. This one online course in order to get aware all these developers of how to program with the XBRL APIs. So and also we are planning in the September or November to sign a contract with the CRUE. CRUE is the CRUE is the Spanish conference of universities, in order to spread these contents, these training courses around across all the universities for theses and doctorate or whatever. So training is very important when you have a project that is not being grown up or set up in terms of a normal or traditional community. You have to invest really a lot.
This is also one question, that is the lack of available training for XBRL, because well, in Spain we have in Spanish there are some things, but at international level they are not too much, because as far as I understand, the only existing is the certification of XBRL International, but more a certification than a training. As training, I am one of the exam writers preparing questions for the exam, and it's more a typical certification that a traditional training. I think they are not too much in training. I don't know, you know, this better than me.
Well, I think training has mostly been a point-to-point contractual relationship between commercial people training commercial users. It's very expensive to prepare training. It's the normal, you know, it's 3 to 5 days for each day of training to prepare. And so when people have needs for training, it's not something that's like open source, where you do it once and use it over and over again. We would hope that that will change in the future. Certainly, it's one of the initiatives of the XBRL Standards Board to provide more training. But it seems to be very slow and coming and very hard to produce. There is material available, but it's very specialized. And some of it just starts being too deep and too involved.
We will have all these courses we are developing today under Creative Commons licenses, so it can be reusable and of course shared with the international XBRL initiatives anyway, for translations or whatever.
Okay, so basically,
something we have seen successful, I would say, focused training initiatives, especially in thinking of the 3 or 4 times year basis that we have been training people from Latin American Security and Exchange Commissions and central banks in basic XBRL concepts with the business, not only from a technology standpoint, but trying to put new users from these organizations in time. And in fact, if we are finding now that there are projects starting or already in production in Chile or in Argentina, in Uruguay, it's all related to a 3 or 4 years systematic training to these people. The problem is that what Herm says, it's expensive, it's very time consuming, and in our case this was done by somebody who was really doing investment in terms of supporting the Security and Exchange Commissions and central banks in Latin America. It was the Latin, I don't know which is the name of the organization.
Yeah, it's the Ibero-American Institute of Securities Markets.
Yeah, the problem is that the investment was high, but the return on the investment you can see now when you start seeing projects flourishing. Not too many, but there are at least a couple, and those are serious. I mean, the people know what they are doing.
No, that's absolutely true, because this is a public initiative of international cooperation in Spanish between Spain and Latin America. It's part of the government efforts to link Spain with Latin America. Has been organized by the Securities and the Banking Supervisor originally, and with the help of the Spanish Agency for International Cooperation, and obviously the contribution of actors and other...
Yeah, but there were a lot of people involved. I mean, it's not
only around 20 or 30, 20 or 30 people there are six weeks in offsite plus 1 week here, and is more or less to comment what is happening in XBRL, the input and so on. The final result is that in production we have Chile and Peru, and in development is also Panama, Peru, Chile and Uruguay in this moment. So, thanks to that, I received a comment from other European countries that say, how do you do that in my language area? So simply put money, put time, put effort, and this is the only way, because if not, waiting that the people train along may be more complex.
Maybe not relevant at all, but in the past I was talking to people, I tried to upload the page, but I don't find it, about the Open Knowledge Foundation. I don't know if this is known. They're also dealing with government, and I think when we're talking about transparency, I made the link in my mind.
Exactly.
And I tried to upload to see the document, but they published something on transparency, and I don't think they're aware of XBRL. I'm not sure. But,
yes, I think, how is it? There's a,
Yeah.
today there's been a Twitter, I don't know what it says, that linking XBRL with the Open Knowledge Foundation, just very today. So I was really surprised to say, wow, we were making an effort, I think 2 months ago, trying to get part of the Spanish initiative on transparency. You know, there is a law which I think is developing it, or I don't know exactly which point it is, but well, they give us some space to promote the use of the XBRL. And the community itself, we know around Senati, with a lot of companies who are in this kind of foundations and also in the business side, they have both visions of life, the open source and the business too. Okay. They're helping us for free to promote the use of XBRL, linking XBRL with transparency. So they have reached to the Open Knowledge Foundation just very today. I think it's very morning. I think you can set up the Twitter. I don't know. Open spending. Fine. Not exactly open source.
Well, in the same time, while the web page is located, there are an initiative in Spain is to create intermediaries of information in the concept of open data. So the idea is that we from the public sector, we are invested a lot in order to collect the XBRL information. Well, this XBRL information is published, but the role of the public sector finishes publishing the XBRL information. The idea is that entrepreneurs and people with initiatives take that information, recombine that information, put value added in that information, and obtain a benefit selling or providing services with this information. To do that, they need to know how to manage XBRL and some kind of tools to manage XBRL. For instance, XML have open source parsers and open source validators. We need something equivalent, in my opinion, for XBRL for this kind of training or generic issues. So,
yeah.
Okay, any other comment, any other issue? Okay, if there are no more points as logistical topics, first remember that tomorrow we will start at 9 with also a complete agenda from several 3 tracks in parallel. And the other point is related with the tapas dinner for this night. You take one of that, you may find a mappa here, a map. This is the Gaztelu restaurant. The Gaztelu restaurant is basically in the back of this building in the 2 streets. It's open air. The smokers may be wonderful because at this open air, the smoker may smoke whatever they want.
We're open everything. Open spending, open dinner.
Open, this is open everything.
Open smoking.
And this is at 8. It's a courtyard that is reserved only for us. And I think there are no more logistic comments, Javi? Yosaki, please close formally.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering this second General Assembly of Open Source Openfiling meeting. And we believe that the future and the further implementation of XBRL will be depending upon the success of open source approach. So please join us and cooperate together. Okay. Thank you very much.
And maintain open minds.